Okay, so welcome back to this second tutorial. I hope you've seen my first tutorial where I did this basic introduction to what SPARQL-visualizer is and what SPARQL-visualizer can do. In this tutorial I will go a bit further as I will show you how to use the tool locally. What you achieve by doing so is that you can hook it up to a Stardog triple store which you have locally. When you click the menu up here, you can see that now I did some further additions. I've added the first tutorial so you can see it directly from the application here. And I've added this download app button. And if we click that, you see it will download a zip folder. And if we go and take a look at it, unzip the archive, you can see that we have an index.html and a bunch of JavaScript files. If I open this HTML file, I will not see anything. And this is because we have to have a server running in order to render it correctly. There are several options for that. If you have Python 2.7 installed, that's default on a Unix system like Mac OS. You can run the simple HTTP server command. If you have a more recent version of Python, it has changed slightly to http.server. And if you have Node installed, I recommend you to install the HTTP server library globally, and then you can use this last command. I also have git bash installed because I like to use bash. Also gives me this option to just go straight to the folder in my terminal here from which I can execute the command. If you're not so familiar with the terminal, you probably won't have that installed, but you can also just use the command prompt or terminal on a Unix system. And in here you just have to type cd for choose directory, and then we can copy the path here, paste it in. Then we can see that we are in the same directory, so you can see we have exactly the same files here as we see in Explorer, and we can use one of them. Let's just use the Python version. Paste it in here. And now we have a server running. It says that we have it on HTTP 0.0.0 port 8000. What this also means is that we can go back to the browser. I'll just remove that. And type localhost :8000 to visit localhost on port 8000. So now we have a local version of the application rather than the online version served on GitHub. What we need to do then is to go and download a Stardog and install a Stardog. I will not go through that here, but you can go here and download the community edition for free. You can go to the documentation and see how to install it. When you have that, you open another command like this, type in Stardog admin server start, and you will start a server on port 5820, I think it is. And then you will have that running. And then if you type in localhost port 5820, you will see that. I don't have a Stardog running locally. I have it on another server, but basically it's the same. You go to the browser, you type this in, and they have this nice user interface that you can go and visit. You will have to go and click databases and add a new database. I already have one that I use for these purposes called test. You can click this query tab, and if we use one of the default queries to look at all the entities, you see that I actually already have some data in here. That's not a problem, but you should be aware that you should use some database where you can just wipe the whole content without a problem. Because what you see is that when we go to the next tab here, I have this option to just click wipe database. It says down here in the bottom, successfully wipe the database. And this is actually talking to the actual database, so it is wiping everything in the default graph. So you see when I execute the query again, I get 0 items. So then on the tab on which I am, you see if I switch back to the default local store mode here, you can see that there are some instances here. Those are the ones that I will load in the store when I click this load dataset. And what you see is that the query is fired, but now it's fired on the database rather than on some local store. This means that there are some limitations with the local store version that we run directly on the client. You cannot do optional arguments, you cannot do minus and stuff like that. And maybe most importantly, you can't do reasoning, which you can do here. You can also click this second button, load ontology data. That will load the building topology ontology in there as it is now. It might be a future version in a future version that you can add more to that. But you see that now you have this. Now you will have this button, and you can click reasoning, and it will give you the results with reasoning. So you can see, for instance, that these two things are also classified as owl thing. Not a lot happening here, but in some files it might be more. What I would also like to show you is how you can extend the data.json file or the JSON file from before, where you had the projects settings. You can also add some more settings where you can include a file path. You see, if we go and visit this one, this is a file generated by an IFC to link building data tool developed by Jyrki. And this is a rather large file. It's based on the on an open IFC file that's available on Building Smart. But okay, that's not so important now. What's important is that you can have files stored somewhere else, just as you have the JSON files. And in the exact same way, you can go and take this file. Which one was it? This one. Copy the Dropbox link, add it in here. File equals, and then again we will have to delete this part and replace it with dl.dropbox user content.com. And now you see I can again wipe the database. I can load the dataset. This takes a while because it's a large file, but now you have this full file in here. To illustrate how large this is, I can just take one of these. I know these are all spaces, and then do a construct. On this particular entity. Yeah, and you see this is just a great way of going in and like walking your way through the data set to see, okay, so what is in there. I can see I have something here. It's that's the name of it. So the name of this room is A101, stuff like that. So that was it for now.